This is our next series on 5 osteoporosis exercise or bone building exercises for your spine and hip. We're going to start in what's called a prone position. That means on your stomach. Now, those of you with low back issues, you're going to use a small pillow, and we're going to have you place that underneath your abdomen and hips. Now, Chris doesn't have low back issues, so we're not going to use that for her, but she is going to go face down and bring her forehead on top of the towel here. So I'm going to have you go down, Chris, onto your stomach. And then stack your hands on top of each other. So, yep. And then you bring your forehead on top of the hands. Now, we're going to ground the pelvis down, and that's to stabilize the low back. So Chris is doing a great job here to press her pubic bone, pressing it down towards the floor into the mat. And when she does that, she's going to engage the pelvic floor by drawing the sit bones together. Pelvic floor lifts up, abdominals lift up, shoulder blades go down, her back, nice. Neck is nice and long. So the first part of this exercise, you're going to keep your hands pressed down into the mat, and now just lift your head and chest up, great. Keeping the forearms in contact with the floor at all times. She's drawing her ribs together on this too. So you're going to take a breath to inhale to come up and exhale, good. Coming up, so really resisting the hands down into the floor. Pubic bone presses in, the knees are going to pop up. That's engaging your quadriceps to do this. We're going to do this one more time. So really press down into the floor with your hands. Imaginary board in the back of your head that you're trying to press into. Pubic bone pressing into the mat. Just really active legs here. So we're going to progress on with this exercise. So feel free to do that about 5 times to really feel that. That's the warm-up for the next one. Now, you can always go back to the previous one if this becomes too much. We want to be careful with the low back. So you're going to keep your hands now attached to your forehead as you lift your head, chest, and arms up, ground the pubic bone down, nice. And very nice. And breathing here, we're going to hold it for 3 full breaths. Really draw these ribs together. Inhale, expand the belly, expand the ribs. Exhale, draw it together. For 3 full inhales and exhales, still keeping the feet in contact with the floor. So the feet are not coming up here, pubic bone grounded. Now I'm going to have you come back down, Chris, taking a break. If you felt okay with that one, we're going to do another round of it. If you didn't, please go back to the first one where you keep your hands in contact, your arms in contact with the floor and lifting just the head up. Great, like Chris just did. So we're going to come up one more time with this one. So take a breath. Your hands, your head, your chest come up. Really working on that deep diaphragmatic breath. Deep inhale, deep exhale. All 10 toes anchored down. 2 more breaths here. Deep inhale, belly presses into the mat. Exhale, it lifts up. Last breath here. And coming back down. So the next progression is the best exercise for bone density or for osteoporosis. And it's called rockets. So we're going to have you bring your arms back by your side with your palms up towards the ceiling. Here we want to be really aware of the collarbones, that we want them wide, and the shoulder blades are going to go down your back. So you're going to take a breath, and on the exhale, float your arms, head, chest up. If you feel okay in your low back in this position, float your feet up as well. Keep the eyes down towards the ground, elongating your back of the neck, and your crown of your head is reaching this direction, feet reaching in the opposite direction. Flying through the air like a rocket. Keep breathing. Deep inhale, deep exhale. If your low back is bothering you, just bring those feet down. You don't have to bring them up. And 2 more breaths here, then we're going to take a break. Good. 1 more deep breath. And then you're going to come down. Now, if you need to shake out your hips a little bit to loosen up your low back, so you're just going to go from side to side and loosen up that low back a little bit. We're going to go into this again, and it's going to be 5 full breaths. So ground down in your pubic bone, really press down heavily. Slide those shoulder blades down your back. Ground all 10 toes down to the ground first before we come up. Reach those arms back, lift the head and chest up, and it's just you're floating, reaching. Now float those legs up and reach, 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 flying through the air, eyes down towards the floor, long neck, shoulder blades down your back. Now if you notice your shoulder blades starting to round forward, just open up that chest and expand. Expand your breath. 2 more full breaths here. Deep inhale, deep exhale, last breath. And coming back down. Wiggle out those hips to see if you have any tension in there. Our next exercise is called Sunbird. This is also for strengthening the bone density in our spines and also in our hips. So we are going to go on all fours here. So there's a few modifications that we got to address. We want to fold our mats in half because we have sensitive kneecaps here. So we want to fold over. You can always use a blanket to pat it. And also a lot of people have wrist issues. So Chris is going to show us here how to fold over our mat. And then we just have the palm of our hands. There you go. Yep. Just pressing into that mat. That helps lift us up. That's an option. The other option is going on your forearms if this is just not working for your wrists at all. So you have your forearms down. You want your shoulders over your elbows. So you want to make sure that's lined up. And you want your hips over your knees. Here you're going to lift your abdominals up. We still keep our neutral spine here. And we keep our head nice and long. We're going to start with extending the left leg back behind you off the ground with an exhale. So exhaling that leg back. Now the trick in this exercise is that the leg, and Chris will show this wrong for a moment, let your hip go up towards the ceiling. Yeah, people like to do this. So to square your hips down, you draw the toes down towards the ground with a flex foot. Just kind of feel that. When you spiral those toes down, it levels off your hips and sets your hips straight again. We're going to just breathe here, keeping the abdominals lifting up with every exhale, keeping our chest pressed away from the floor so we have that imaginary beach ball underneath our chest that we're trying not to touch, and we're pressing our chest away. Now bring your left knee down to the floor, and we'll show this on the right side as well. So before you begin, press your chest away from the floor, very active in the chest and in the upper back. You flex the foot back, toes spiral down, that levels off the hips, lifting the abdominals up. So again, this is a spine strengthening exercise for bone density. Yep, nice, that imaginary board against our head. So we want to strengthen our neck with this as well. Bring that right foot down, yeah, right knee down. You're going to continue with this. Let's go for 2 more rounds. So you're going to take a breath, exhale, yep, and then just hold it here for 2 breaths. And then switching to the right side. Good. Spiraling those toes down, that imaginary board against your head. So again, you have that beach ball underneath you. Bring that leg down, and we'll just do 1 more cycle here. Good. Feeling that awareness of not allowing the gravity to pull your abs down. So last one on the right side here. And then you could bring that leg down, Chris, and we're going to show some other variations of this. So if you're able to do a little more of a challenge in this position and your wrists are okay, you can roll up the mat again up for your wrists. This is not necessary, this is just an option. And we're going to do the full sunbird here. So for the full sunbird, it's the same setup, shoulders, get your mat, yep, underneath your knees. So shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, abs lifted. We're going to extend the right leg back with that flex foot. Square the hips. Now lift the left arm up in front of you. So it's the opposite leg and arm. Lifting the abs up, still breathing, chest presses away, head pressing in that imaginary board, crown of the head reaching forward. Do one more breath here, come down, and switching sides, elongate, take that left leg back behind you, good. Right arm in front of you. Now imagine you're going to be shaking someone's hand, so you're not popping the shoulder off your back. You're keeping the shoulder blade planted in, imaginary, good. Stretching out to reach out and shake someone's hand. Bring that left knee down. I'll have you continue on with this for 2 more rounds of back and forth. Chris can show us this. Now again, abs lift up. Now if you're starting to get shoulder pain or wrist pain, you're going to want to go back down to the forearms with this. Now we're going to show you another version here. It's called hovering. So this is another challenge point. We're going to have you on your hands and you are on your knees, the same setup we had before, this nice straight neutral spine. And all you're going to do is you're going to lift your knees up, press the chest away from the mat, lifting up. Now imaginary sit bones are drawing together, imaginary ball between your legs or block that you're trying to squeeze. Lift the abdominals up, pressing the chest away from the floor, head nice and long, eyes coming down. Take a break, and we'll do that 2 more times with the hovering. So again, this is just a challenge point. Curl those toes under, lift the abs up, lift the knees up. Again, imaginary beach ball underneath your chest and abdomen. You're trying not to touch. Breathe, lengthening the spine, coming down. We'll do it one last time. Coming up, lift those knees, draw those sit bones together. Breathe. Going back to any of the other variations that we did. One more breath here. We want to take you where you need to be.
Our next exercise is a great bone builder also. Builder for your hips, your spine, weight bearing. Wonderful, but a little bit more complicated. So we're going to try to break it down for you. And just like any exercise we do, we can break it down. You're never missing out if you don't do the full expression of the pose. So the first thing we're going to do, and this is considered as a yoga posture classically, Warrior Two, but it is a great bone builder, and all the Pilates concepts are greatly demonstrated in it. So right now, Christina's standing in mountain pose or elongated tall pose with her weight evenly balanced on her feet, big toe, little toe, heel, and her neck is long, the crown of her head is reaching up to the ceiling. And she's going to bring her arms out to the side and just feel that, the energy out of her fingertips, her head still maintaining long, her shoulder blades back, down her back. And then she's going to bring her arms back down because that's going to be part of the expression toward the end of the pose. So the first part, we're kind of going back to set this up, is to take a nice big step with your right foot to the side. Could be as big as like 3 feet. And you're going to, again, feel that length and that crown of the head getting long, the ribs down, the chin pulled in to the back of your spine. And just practice breathing. And then she could bring her arms up here and hold this pose and feel the strength and feel the energy out of her fingertips. Feel your pelvic floor lifting from the floor beneath you all the way up through the crown of your head. Building those bones. And now Christina can bring her arms back down to her sides and start to turn her right foot towards the wall on your right. So your second toe, knee, hip are lined up. And this is a big one because a lot of people will have knee issues in Warrior and a lot of the Warrior poses, and even in some of the Pilates poses where they're weight bearing. So you really want to think of that second toe, look down at your foot, second toe, your knee and your hip are lined up because you're turned out. And now to help your pelvis start to move towards that wall to the right, you're going to turn your left foot in to about 45 degrees. And now we're going to think second toe, knee, hip. And now we're going to turn our pelvis, because we need to get that pelvis towards the right wall. So we might need to take that right foot and turn it in a little bit more. And turn that in. And right there, you're starting to really challenge your balance. So holding that pose, and let's bring your arms out to your sides. And just visualize the length as your arms go to the side, the length upward, the length outward, the legs grounding down into the floor. The pelvis is starting to turn towards the right to align those hips. And then we're going to take our right knee and bend our right knee. And you can bend as far as you can that your knee does not go beyond your first and second toe, over your toe, so it remains over your ankle. If you feel like you could go a little deeper, then you just separate your left leg and bring it back, or bring your right leg forward. Feel that warrior, feel that strength, feel that energy all the way from the pelvic lifting up and breathing and holding and lifting and breathing and holding. And you can do this 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. You could do the build up just like we did, and hold, and then bring your arms back down. You might want to stay here. Otherwise, you're going to turn your body and step back, your feet together. So we're going to go to the other side. So Christina's going to stand tall, weight even, and step wide, 3 feet with that right foot. Turn her left foot toward the left wall. Turn her right foot in 45 degrees or more to get that alignment. Roll your hips toward the left wall, and we'll bring the arms out to the side and bend the left knee and come into your warrior, lengthening out of the crown of your head, pulling up at your pelvic floor, fingertips reaching away. Breathing in.
We're working on our bone density here in this exercise. We are in a standing position and we're going to be in balance. So we are going to give you different variations because we don't want anyone falling over here. We want them to be nice and stable while doing this. We are working our hips, and we're going to first off just find our placement of our feet hip distance apart. Feel the weight evenly distributed across your foot, the ball of the foot and your heel, and the toes come down, grounding through the floor to then lift up the right leg. Chris is going to demonstrate by holding on to a chair here. You can also use a wall. And we're going to then use our breath to exhale, straighten the leg forward, then bend back to 90 degrees. Exhale to the side, back to 90 degrees, take the leg behind you, back to 90 degrees. So join in with us, whichever version works for you. We're going to exhale to the front, bend, side, bend, back. Chris is going to demonstrate for you if this is too hard to keep your leg bent and straightening. She's going to keep the foot on the ground. You can still hold on to your chair so you don't fall over. Otherwise, we're going to continue ahead with this one with straightening the leg forward to the side, back to center, and back. Let's do 2 more together, 2 more rounds. Remember, the standing leg is slightly bent. We don't want to hyperextend that knee. And last one, forward, back to center, side, back, center. Bring that right foot down. We're going to check in with our feet placement again. So we're going to switch to the left side. And then lifting up the left foot and extend to the front with an exhale. Bend the knee to the side, to the center, back. Now Chris is demonstrating what it would look like with a straight leg with your toe on the ground doing leg circles. Now you want to make sure when you're moving, what are you working here? When you're going back behind you, you want to really engage your glutes, your buttocks, right? We're working our hip, we're working that hip crease here, strengthening our hip bones, using our breath to facilitate the movement. And we're just going to do 2 more rounds on this side. keeping our hips stable, long spine. Last one. And leg back to center and down. Our next pose is called chair pose, and it is a fabulous way to build bone density in your hips. So we have to think, very important word here is hip hinge. This is in your hips. So Chris and I are going to do this together, and then she's going to show you a modification with a chair for stability. But put your fingertips in your hip crease, and you're going to just widen your feet about hip distance apart and slide down your tail towards the floor. We don't want any tucking tails here. We're going back and we're hip hinging, chest lifted. We can bring our arms out in front of us. We can float them up towards the ceiling. If you want more work here, just squat a little bit lower. If this is too much on your knees, you can lift up and just hold it a little higher. But fine, Chris will demonstrate that a little higher. I'll go a little bit lower. Remember to keep using your breath, chest lifting, hip hinging. You're gonna hold it here for 5 more breaths. And now pay attention to your pelvic floor. You're drawing those sit bones together, pelvic floor up, abs lifted. Quads should be working now. You're feeling this all in here and into your quads. 1 more breath here. And then coming back up. Now, Chris is going to demonstrate a modification if you had trouble with your balance there.
So we're going to do this same exact exercise, working on our hips and a little bit of an arc by lifting our chest up. We're going to hold on to our chair, put our weight in our heels, so we work our buttocks and our quads on the front, and just sit back as though a chair is behind you. Draw that pelvic floor, those sit bones together. Feel that lift. And breathe and hold, and if you feel confident, you could lift your arms up slightly, hold it, but keep your hands on the chair for balance if you need to. And hold it and breathe it. Second toe, knee, hip are lined up here. And then exhale, press through your heel and stand tall.